The final vote looming, Mayor Bowser's plan to bring the Commanders home seems less like a dream and more like a carefully constructed financial inevitability. That and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders.
You are Locked On Commanders, your daily podcast on the Washington Commanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Commanders. I am David Harrison, your guy on the ground covering the Washington Commanders for WUSA 9, right here with you 5 days a week. And you can also find me writing about the Commanders for Sports Illustrated's CommanderGameDay.com. You can follow me on X at DHarrison82. I want to thank you for making this episode of Locked On Commanders your first listen or your first view today. And to the everydayers, those of you who come through for every single episode, a special thank you goes out to you as well for making it through for today's episode. If it's your first time here, typically we're talking football, but today a little bit of a different episode. But I do thank you for finding us, and hopefully you come back again soon, because coming up on today's episode, DC Mayor Muriel Bowser and I sat down ahead of the second final vote for the stadium project happening on September 17th to discuss everything that's got to get done, everything that's on the table, and her takes on all of it. All of that is coming up on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And for Mayor Bowser, the debate over a new Commander Stadium starts and ends with the urgent need to develop a massive unused plot of city land.
This project is moving forward because it is the best and fastest way for us to activate 180 acres on the banks of the Anacostia. And as we're kicking off 202 Creates Month, and sports and entertainment is a big driver of our economy, especially as our economy changes. So getting the parcel activated and generating revenue is probably the best reason if you're a mayor, this mayor, and to move forward and to move forward quickly. The next reason is we have a great partner, and that partner is bringing over $2 billion to the project, and that will allow us to activate it fast. And it happens to be our hometown team, Absolutely. And that adds to the civic pride in our city.
And I love the conviction. I know we want to operate on moving forward, not anything else. Yes. But if there were a snag, you mentioned before that it could be a vacant lot for another decade if this doesn't go through. Kind of what is that? Can you kind of elaborate on what that really means if this were to hit a hitch?
Well, what it means is that we would just have to find a new partner, and we don't have a $2.1 billion partner waiting in the wings. Yeah. We would have to go through some pretty long processes, entitlement processes, zoning processes to get this moving. And it's just my experience with large parcels like this is that it could be a great project in the end, but that end is a long time from now. With our current plan, we will be open in 2030, but not just waiting till 2030. Already, the team and the city will start to hire consultants and designers and architects and start working on infrastructure. So as early as next year, people will be going to work on this project.
And to that end, as an economic engine, kind of talk about like how important all of this is, not just because I think a lot of people in my arena, we're looking at 2030. Right. The stadium's going to be cool, but as an economic engine, it's got a much bigger reach. It starts
now. We'll start like literally competing contracts that put people to work on this, this fall, when people would be working by the beginning of the year.
And the current plan, over $1 billion in public funding. I know some people have some concerns about that. Can you kind of how do we kind of calm some of the concerns about that?
Well, regardless of whether there's going to be a team there or not, the city would be investing in the infrastructure for this project. And that's what the $1 billion you reference represents. It represents us helping with the horizontal infrastructure. The team will build the stadium. We're investing in the parking infrastructure as well. And on top of it, we're going to build one of our own sports and recreation facilities there.
And the presentation shows DC's 24% public contribution is actually really low compared to other NFL stadiums. Can you kind of elaborate there too?
Absolutely. And so when you look across all this, it's one outlier out in Los Angeles, but beyond that, I think we're the lowest public contribution of recent stadium projects.
And you mentioned the other sports facilities. So the existing sports facility fee And I'll be completely transparent. I don't even know what that is
Sure.
as a sports reporter.
Sure.
So if you can kind of elaborate like that, and the national parks are going to be paid off 10 years early as part of the deal. Can you kind of talk about that?
Sure. So you're talking about how we have financed Nationals Park, and that's where our baseball team plays. And that was a much debated project as well, where that stadium was almost 100% publicly financed. Yeah. At the time, I guess it's been about 15 years now, it was a $600 million project. And we paid for it with a it was called the ballpark fee.
Okay.
And this ballpark fee is spread around to all of our business taxpayers. We were able to borrow money to build the stadium. Because it has done so well, we will be able to pay off those bonds early, retire the ballpark bond, and now use the ballpark fee to support building this stadium.
It sounds like a good deal to me. Council members Robert White and Matthew Fruman, hopefully I'm saying his name correct. They kind of cited lack of penalties if the Commanders delay the housing component to this, pointing to the Barclays Center as kind of a cautionary tale. What's your kind of response and thoughts on that?
Well, I think that the council can play a role in making sure that all housing projects in the city move faster. And we want housing to be delivered faster at RFK Stadium as well. We think that this owner is better situated to do that than anybody else because they're bringing a lot of money. They're attracting a lot of capital interest. But I'm very interested in working with the council, especially Councilmember Wright, on housing policies that make it easier to build affordable housing in DC. So we have some work to do there.
And the agreement has $50 million in community benefits package for Ward 7, specifically for the residents living next to the campus. What are they going to see from that investment?
Well, I think it's a powerful tool that we can use. Ward 7 residents and all city residents have been very focused on getting jobs and opportunity for both residents and businesses. And so there's a lot of emphasis on training people, but also helping businesses get ready to take advantage of this opportunity. I think all of us wouldn't have done our jobs if this $4 billion project doesn't benefit our businesses that in turn hire DC residents. So we have a big focus on hiring local and small businesses. Our existing law already requires hiring DC residents. There are also agreements with labor unions to ensure that labor unions are involved in the construction and operations on the site.
So I want to talk about Kingman Park as well, but you mentioned the labor union. So if we could talk about that agreement, though, it looks like it's only required for the stadium itself. Can you kind of talk about like the hotels, the retail, and the housing, and kind of if there's any type of forcing function there for that as well?
Sure. So for the stadium, which represents the most spend on the site, we will have a project labor agreement. We've had project labor agreements on other large projects in the district, including the ballpark, which have worked. Now, some parts of it that need to be improved is making sure we're hiring DC residents. And so sometimes with the labor unions don't have as many DC residents as members, therefore not as many DC residents are working. So we want this site to help everybody. So focusing on the stadium with the PLA is important. There's an agreement to include some of the hotel spaces in those labor agreements as well. But also making sure that our businesses and our DC residents are getting hired is a high priority for me.
While the financial and labor agreements form the deal's foundation, the true test of its success will be how it impacts the surrounding neighborhoods and the fans in the stands. That and more coming up next on today's episode of Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you in part by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off for once. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in on those decisions. Mayor Bowser just spoke about how the new ownership is quote unquote committed to winning, and you can feel that energy with the Washington Commanders football team. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way for you to get in on the action. It takes less than 60 seconds to play, and you pick just more or less than on projections for 2 to 6 players. For example, you could take Jaden Daniels for more than the passing yards projection he has next week, or Terry McLaurin for less than the receiving yards projection he has last week. Whatever decision you decide to make, it's quick, it's easy, and my favorite way to follow along with football on game days. On September 14th, PrizePicks had a max discount on Travis Kelce, just half a yard receiving. That's a free square that you didn't want to miss unless you did. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's Locked On NFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all turn to some funny places sometimes for advice. Your barista, your barber, maybe even a random stranger sometimes, but not everyone is the right one when it comes to real support. Listening to Mayor Bowser, you can hear the pressure involved in a decision this big. It's a lot to manage. We all deal with our own pressures, and sometimes we vent about it to group chats or friends who mean well, but they're frankly just not trained to handle it. That's why BetterHelp is here. With over 30,000 licensed therapists, BetterHelp helps you find your right match, someone clinically trained to guide you through life's challenges. You start with a simple questionnaire, and they do the matchmaking work for you. If it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists anytime at no extra cost. It's also flexible with online sessions that fit your busy schedule. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Today's episode is also brought to you in part by Upside. Commanders fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind every time you leave the pump. In our chat with the mayor, we touched on transportation, from traffic concerns to how fans get to the stadium. And if you're one of the many who drives, you need to know about the free Upside app. You can get real cash back every time you fill up. Download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now. Use the limited time promo code touchdown. Get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You can make up to $300 a year just buying the gas that you already need to buy. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit, and you can cash out anytime to your bank account, to your PayPal account, or on an e-gift card for brands like Amazon, for example. So don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using the promo code touchdown for that 25 cent per gallon bonus. Disclaimer, offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. Mayor Bowser's vision for the new stadium complex seems to hinge on successfully balancing the everyday concerns of neighbors with the game day desires of loyal fans.
We have been heavily engaged with Kingman Park neighbors, and I think they have raised some good issues. One thing that we have even adjusted in our thinking based on those conversations is how parking will be phased. We're going to have structured parking, no more sea of asphalt when this site is fully built out. And where that parking is located on the site, I think is important to the residents there. How we see how it's working before the last parking garage is built out is a concession we've made. So I think they want it to operate well. They want it to look nice. And they want people to park on the site, not in their neighborhood, and be able to enter the site without getting backed up in their neighborhood. So I think the traffic plan, the metro plan, and the parking plan that we're working on will address that. We also have the benefit of the site having been used as an NFL stadium before. So we have a lot of experience with how traffic moves around there. But since the team paid there the last time and now, so many more transportation options, from scootering to rideshare, and of course, our wonderful metro system.
Yeah, I mean, flow and curb appeal matter, right? I mean,
they
a
matter.
Beautiful city to drive.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be beautiful.
Absolutely. So the deal promises 6,000 new homes, 30% of those being affordable homes. What are the mechanisms that are in place to that 30% commitment, and what kind of level of affordability can be expected?
So this site is part of the Anacostia Waterfront Initiative. That's like more than a 20-year plan for RFK, which envisioned it being fully fed out with housing, commercial uses, and sports and entertainment uses, and parks uses. And so that plan, like our city leaders 20 years ago had the foresight to see that we should put some goals on it for the environment, but also for housing. So already the Anacostia Waterfront Initiative requires, and I'm going to have to, I think that the number is 30% there. And within that 30%, significantly restricted lower income housing and workforce housing. So they're pretty aggressive goals.
Now, fans, we're talking to fans here. Tailgating is a major touch point for the fans that are going to attend these games. Is there a plan? I'm sure you guys are considering that desire. Is there a plan to kind of facilitate that, or is it at least a consideration?
It's been a major consideration for the team, for the Commanders, and they're in charge of that. And so they know that that's important to their fans, and I think their approach has been to be very creative about the structured parking. Also, the public spaces that are required with our agreement with the the law the Congress passed, that we have a certain amount of green space on the site that I think can be used creatively as well.
Absolutely. The press release highlights a roof stadium that can be used year round. So for the 300 plus days that the Commanders are not going to be playing there, hopefully fewer of those days as we go through. What are kind of some of the things that can come there?
Oh, everything from big concerts to World Cup soccer. We've missed out on some things in the district because we don't have the appropriate stadium. The World Cup being a big kind of in our craw of something that passed us by. We missed out on Taylor Swift. I mean, and Beyonce came out to Landover, but not every people haven't been extremely satisfied with that experience either. So we are missing this type of venue in our portfolio as a city.
I think it's something for people. I hear Taylor's getting married. I don't know, maybe
That's
wedding
exciting.
of the century in DC, right? Maybe.
I like the way
I don't know if they want to wait that long, but we'll see. So both you and Josh Harris have spoken about making opponents fear playing in RFK. Again, and we know Josh has a deep, genuine tie to the area as well. How can a new modern stadium really kind of replicate that unique, loud, and intimidating environment of RFK? Well,
what all of us are kind of upset about is sometimes when you go to a home game for the Commanders, you see more of the opponent's side. That should not be happening. And so we need a real home field. And we know that we can be the Commanders fans can be that extra player on the field for our team. And, I grew up in the city. I did not grow up going, my family was not a season ticket holder. And now more families may have the opportunity to get a chance to go see games.
Absolutely. The first vote, 9-3, obviously in favor, which is why we're here. The council has a new member voting this time. How confident are you in this second vote outcome?
I feel pretty good about it. Yeah. I think that we got all the issues out on the table. And I think the Commanders, to their credit, are still kind of working on the members who weren't there the first time to get them there this time.
And I know that you said Josh Harris is the right partner at the right time for something like this. What specifically has he and the entire kind of organization, the new organization, really kind of brought to the table?
Yeah, I think he has reset that team and the culture of that team. And some of us from the outside looking in may not have known how dysfunctional it really was. I think it came out over time, but he's reset the culture. I think he's brought some great people that we've enjoyed working with. He's committed to winning, and I think he's committed to doing things the right way. And he's approached the city in a way that I think has been respectful and powerful. I think he's treated his other partners around the region in an equally fair way. So I think, I think he does business the right way.
And speaking of that, actually, so he plans on keeping the headquarters in Maryland, the training facility in Virginia, and then obviously hopefully the stadium in DC. How important or how beneficial can that DMV approach be to specifically the district?
Well, Commanders fans are all over the region, and we are, at the end of the day, it was important to me that everybody was treated fairly in the process, where there are going to be a lot of decisions that we make together in this region. I've always tried to be upfront with my regional partners on what was important to us, and I have advocated for them to be treated fairly as well.
So the deal to control the land from the federal government was called by some a quote unquote political miracle. For those who don't follow the politics of it that closely, kind of what went into securing that and why was that so critical?
Well, it was a 10-year miracle in the making.
Yeah.
So it was a long miracle, and it didn't happen overnight, and we never gave up. We had to go through a lot of fits and starts and changes along the way. But what was important is that 180 acres gets activated. Having a falling down stadium on the axis of the nations of the Capitol building itself is unacceptable. Having the only memorial to RFK in the city to be a falling down stadium was unacceptable. And having land sitting there vacant in a city that needs housing and economic development was also unacceptable. And we knew that the National Park Service, which is the holder of the land, just was not in a position to activate it. And we knew we could if we had the right plan and the right partner.
So let's fast forward now. I know you're speaking with a lot of conviction, which gives me confidence. Votes done, votes passed. What's the next single biggest obstacle to making 2030 happen?
I think once we get the votes from our end, we're done. And from the team's end, they are able to, they're already kind of working, to be honest with you, because the timeline is tight. It really can't afford hiccups or delays to get to 2030. So they're already kind of thinking, so when they can get the final vote and really start spending real money on the planning, then we're off to the races.
So last question.
Super Bowl.
Absolutely. And the wedding of the century. Final question I have for you, Mayor, is from Chick Hernandez, WSA 9, True Blue, DMV guy. He's been in the region for a long time. And he wanted to know, tenure as a mayor, was this final homecoming vote potentially mean for you, for your legacy, to have you really taken a step back and realize like you could be the mayor to bring this organization back home? And then, of course, the ramifications for the organization, the community in general. Well,
I think my legacy is being written, perhaps, but this is big. I can't deny that this would be a big thing. Listen, I've had a lot of sports wins. Okay, we kept our Capitals and Wizards and Mystics. We went after, we got a great deal for the city. Not only did we get a deal, we got a great deal for the city at a time when our team is winning. And all of that is good for the city's confidence and pride and our bottom line.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Commanders. Thanks for coming through. All that's there to wait for is the September 17th vote. And if you're as confident as the mayor is, that vote is going to be done. It's going to be approved. And then it's just on to getting the stadium developed. Next time on Locked On Commanders, we're going to continue to look at what has happened with the Washington Commanders the first 2 weeks of the NFL season and look forward to week 3 at home against the Las Vegas Raiders. In the meantime, if you've got questions or comments, you can text them to me directly by becoming a Locked On Commanders Insider. Go to joinsubtext.com/Locked On Commanders. For your next listen, check out Locked On NFL. Season is here. It's in full swing. Tyler Rowland and Tony Wiggins are bringing you everything you need to know about the league every morning and every afternoon on Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you're listening to today's podcast. To the everydayers, I see you, I appreciate you, and I thank you for coming through every day, but especially today. Until next time, stay safe, be kind to one another. And we'll talk again real soon right here on Locked On Commanders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.